1, 2, 3, 4.
Wanna hear you go.
Hello, and welcome back to the AI Cafe Conversations. This is your host, Sahar Andrade. I am your AI whisperer. Last time we talked about why leaders freeze under AI disruption. But first and foremost, I wanted to wish you a very happy new year. This is the 7th of January. This is our first Wednesday regular long podcast episode, and this is actually episode 2 in season 3. If you missed our first episode of the year of 2026, it was last Friday, and it was about why leaders freeze under AI disruption. Go back and listen to it and let me know what you think. So the 3 brain blocks that are competency freeze, control spiral, certainty trap that keep executive stuck. This is basically what we discussed the last time on why leaders freeze. Today, I want to show you what happens after the freeze. And I'm going to be direct with you. It's really expensive. According to a research from IBM, the average organization is losing $670,000 annually from what I call shadow AI, unauthorized AI tools employees use without governance, without oversight, without strategic alignment. But here is what most executives don't realize, that $670,000 isn't just about money. It's about chaos. Organizational chaos that compounds over time, that turns innovation into vulnerability, that fractures culture while everyone thinks they're being productive. So today, let's talk about what chaos actually looks like when leadership doesn't commit to an AI strategy, and why it's accelerating faster than most people realize. Let's go. Okay, so let me paint you a picture. You are a CEO or a VP or a director with P&L responsibilities. And you know AI is important. You have been in meetings, you have read the articles, you maybe even started a few pilots. But you haven't committed. You haven't built conviction. You are in what I call the competency freeze. You don't fully understand AI, you're not alone. So you are hesitant to greenlight anything major. So what do? You say things like, hey, let's wait and see what the industry does. Let's run one more pilot before we scale. Let's make sure we understand this fully before committing budget. And I have been hearing some kind of version of that almost every single day when I'm helping organizations either integrate or I even do workshops for their directors and executives. All of that sounds reasonable, right? Prudent, even. But here is what's happening while you're waiting. Your employees are not waiting. According to a 2025 survey, 78% of employees are already using AI tools at work. And you know that. 59% of them are using unapproved tools. Tools IT doesn't know about. Tools leadership hasn't vetted. Tools that may or may not comply with your data policies. And it's not just entry-level people. 93% of executives are doing this too. So while leadership is frozen in analysis, the organization is moving, just not in any coordinated way. So let me give you some example of what this chaos looks like. Example number 1, marketing team, for example. Marketing discovers ChatGPT. I know that has been a long time ago, but it's an example. They start using it for everything: campaign copy, social media posts, customer research. They're getting results. They're moving fast. But they're also feeding customer data into a customer or a consumer AI tool. And they have no idea if that violates your data retention policy or your client contracts. Example number 2, the finance team. Finance finds an AI tool that automates expense report analysis. Great, right? Except IT already purchased a different tool for this. So now you're paying for two solutions that do the same thing, and neither team knows the other exists. Example number 3, the sales team. Sales start using an AI agent to draft client proposals. It's fast, it's helpful, but the proposals sometimes include pricing that doesn't match your actual terms, and legal doesn't find out until a client points it out. This is what I call vibe coding. It's a term that's emerged in the past year. Angel Rogers from Fast Company Executive Board wrote about this, and it described what happens when individual contributors spin up their own AI tools and agents to solve problems faster than leadership can establish guidelines. Yeah, this is the new word, vibe coding. And it's exploding. According to Fast Company research, some industries saw a 250% year-over-year increase in this kind of unauthorized AI experimentation in late 2024. 250%. So let me ask you, do you know what tools your team is using right now? Do you know what data they are feeding into those tools? Do you know if those tools conflict with each other? Most executives don't. And that's the chaos. You have scattered AI pilots with no coordination. You have employees spinning up their own tools without governance. You have every department doing their own thing. You have no strategic alignment, just reactive firefighting. And according to research from Gartner and EY Parthenon, here is the really painful part. 80% of organizations are using AI in at least one function, but only 33% are scaling AI enterprise-wide. The gap between 88% and 33% is what they call pilot purgatory. You are experimenting, you are spending money, you're creating activity, but you are not creating strategy. And when there is no strategy, chaos fills the void. So what's the real cost? Let's talk about what this chaos actually cost. I mentioned $670,000 figure earlier. That comes from IBM research aggregated through surveys on shadow AI usage. Until today, there are so many people that don't even know what shadow AI is. They have never heard that. I don't know where they have been, but anyhow, shadow AI is when your employees in your organization are using AI tools that haven't been sanctioned, that haven't been vetted. And that's why they use it in the shadow, they use it in the dark, and they don't let you know. But let me break down what that number actually represents, because it's not just about money. Cost number 1, redundant tool spending. When every department is buying their own AI tools without coordination, you end up with massive redundancy. Marketing buys a content generation tool. Sales buys a different content generation tool. Product buys yet another one. 3 tools, same function, 3 separate contracts. And nobody realizes it until the CFO starts asking why AI spending is so high with so little measurable ROI. Cost number 2, security vulnerabilities. This is the big one. When employees use consumer AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, whatever is available, they're often feeding in proprietary information, customer data, financial projections, product roadmaps, strategic plans, and they don't realize that depending on the tool and the settings, that data might be used to train the AI model, or stored on servers you don't control, or accessible to users, others that in certain contexts. Now, I'm not saying consumer AI tools are inherently dangerous. I'm saying ungoverned use creates exposure. So I always tell my clients this: make sure that whatever tool you're using, go to the setting and toggle that little button that says, I don't want my information to be used to train this AI model. Between you and me, I don't even know if it works or it doesn't, but at least you are taking precautions or preventions and that they can use the information that you end up. The other thing is most of these platforms like ChatGPT and Claude allow you to do a private conversation that is not saved on the servers, that is not kept in the memory. And it's like a little circle on the top right hand. And if you feel like you have important private information, even if it's personal, you can enter it there and then it disappears the minute you close that browser. Again, I'm not telling you it's 100%, but at least it's something that you can do to protect yourself. Okay, back now to what we were talking about. Like I said, I'm not saying that consumer AI tools are all dangerous. I'm not saying that they all will scatter your information. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, again, is ungoverned use creates exposure. And when you have 59% of employees using unapproved tools, you have 59% of your workforce potentially creating security vulnerabilities you cannot see. Cost number 3, cultural fracture. Here is the cost nobody really talks about. And this is what I talk about. When employees are solving problems with unauthorized tools, they are innovating. That's good. But they are innovating in the shadows. That's bad. Why? Because it creates a culture of don't ask, don't tell. Employees learn. If I ask for permission, I will get stuck in approval purgatory. If I just do it quietly, I can get results. The old adage that says, better ask for forgiveness than for permission. So they stop asking, they stop collaborating, they stop sharing what they are learning, and you end up with innovation happening in silos, invisible to leadership, disconnected from strategy, fragmented across teams. That cultural fracture is expensive, not in dollars necessarily, but in trust, in alignment, in the ability to actually scale that works. That's why the 2 words that I hear mainly coming up from 2025 is misalignment and dysregulation. Cost number 4, lost productivity from conflicting systems. When different teams use different AI tools, they don't talk to each other. You create workflow friction. Marketing generates content in tool A, sales edits it in tool B, product reviews it in tool C, and nothing integrates. So you're copying, pasting between platforms. You are reformatting. You're losing version control. The whole point of AI was supposed to be efficiency, but without governance, you are creating inefficiencies. Cost number 5, compliance and regulatory risk. And this is the one that keeps general counsels up at night. If you are in a regulated industry like healthcare, finance, public sector, you have compliance requirements around data handling. HIPAA, if you are in healthcare, SOX, SOX, if you are publicly traded, GDPR, if you operate in Europe. When employees use unauthorized AI tools, you have no way of knowing if those tools comply with your regulatory obligations. And the first time you get audited or the first time there is a breach, that $670,000 annual cost becomes a $6.7 million penalty, or worse. So when I say this chaos is expensive, I am not just talking about redundant subscriptions. I'm talking about 1, security exposure you cannot measure. 2, cultural breakdown you can't repair. 3, productivity loss you can't track. 4, regulatory risk you can't manage. And it's all happening because leadership froze. Okay, so let's talk about why this happens. Because here is the thing. Your employees are not being malicious. They're not trying to create chaos. They're not trying to expose the organization to risk. They are trying to solve problems. And when leadership doesn't provide clarity, when leadership doesn't provide tools, when leadership doesn't provide strategy, people create their own. This goes back to the brain blocks we talked about last episode. When you are in the competency freeze, when you don't fully understand AI, you hesitate, you delay, you ask for more data. When you are in the control spiral, when you try to manage AI risk through approval processes, you create bottlenecks. You slow everything down. When you are in the certainty trap, when you wait for perfect information before committing, you create a vacuum. And here is what neuroscience tells us about vacuums. The human brain cannot tolerate prolonged uncertainty. Uncertainty activates the same threat response in your brain as physical danger. Your amygdala, your survival center, fires. Cortisol spikes. You feel anxious, and your brain will do anything to reduce that anxiety, including creating its own certainty. So when leadership doesn't say, hey, here is your AI strategy, employees say, here is my strategy. When leadership doesn't say, here are the approved tools, employees say, hey, here is the tool I found. When leadership doesn't say, here is now how we are governing this, employees say, hey, I'll just figure it out myself. They are not defying authority. They are relieving their own cognitive discomfort. And this is why the chaos compounds over time. Because once a few people start using unauthorized tools and getting results, everyone sees it. And they think, if they can do it, I can do it too. Social proof kicks in. Norms shift. And what started as one person's workaround becomes the team's standard operating procedure. And leadership doesn't find out until something breaks, until there is a security incident, until there is a compliance violation, until the CFO asks why you are spending $2 million on AI tools with no measurable ROI. And by then, the chaos is systemic. So here is what I want you to understand. The freeze is not neutral. The freeze is not being careful. The freeze is not prudent risk management. The freeze creates chaos. Because while you're frozen, your organization is moving, just not in the direction you think. And the longer you wait to commit, the more expensive that chaos becomes. And before I wrap up this episode, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying AI is bad. Actually, on the contrary, I'm an enthusiast for AI because of what it can do. It's about us humans, how we use it, how we approach it, how we apply it. This is what I mean by that. I always say this. AI suggests, human decides. AI suggests, human decides. Okay. So now we have talked about what chaos looks like. Scattered pilots, vibe coding, unauthorized tools, cultural fracture. We have talked about what it costs. $670,000 annually. Security exposure, compliance risk, lost productivity. And we have talked about why it happens. Because the brain can tolerate uncertainty. And when leadership doesn't provide clarity, people create their own. So what do you do about it? That's what we are covering next time. There is a solution for everything. And I know I talk about subjects that no one else is touching. Everybody's talking about tech or tools or money or efficiency or productivity or integration, but no one is talking about the human cost. No one is talking about how the human factor is involved in all of that. And what I do is 100% human-centered AI and human-centered leadership. So how do we move from this scattered, chaotic mess to strategic clarity without shutting down the innovation that's already happening? How do you govern AI without killing AI? How do you provide structure without creating more bottlenecks? That's the next conversation. But before then, here is what I want you to do. I want you to take the Shadow AI assessment. I will have the link in the description of this episode. It's a 5-minute diagnostic that reveals which zone your organization is in. Are you in zone 1, conviction lag where leadership is still deciding? Are you in zone 2, where shadow AI response, where chaos is already happening? Or are you in zone 3, the rift, where the gap is too wide to close without intervention? Or in zone 4, where you are at the top of the ladder? So again, I'm going to put the assessment link in the description. Find out where you are, because you can't fix what you can see. And we cannot put our head in the sand anymore. And the chaos, it's more visible than you think. Before I wrap up, like I always say, show me some love. Subscribe, save, share this episode with someone that needs to see it. You can get hold of me by emailing me at sahar@saharconsulting.com, on LinkedIn, Sahar Andrade, on Instagram, Sahar the Reinvent Coach. I'm going to put all my contacts in the description of this episode as well. Show me some love though. This is Sahar Andrade, your AI whisperer, and this is AI Cafe Conversation Podcast, your episode 2 of season 3. See you next time. What I'm going to do also, I'm going to put the sources that I cited in this episode in the description as well, so you can see them in the show notes. So till I see you next time, stay well, use AI in a conscious way, and don't let it go to vibe coding and shadow AI. Bring it into the light. Peace out.